All right, back with you folks. I'm gonna pick up where we left off last time with the parts, or what will be the parts of your franken-posite. So at this point, you've hopefully gotten a chance to take a look at the uh, examples. So I'm gonna go to where this is located. All right, franken-posite sketch. And what I have, take a look, are some examples in here. And what I want you to do is just kind of think about what it is that you want to do. Let me zoom out here so we can see what's going on. All right, I hope now looking at this picture, you see the parts we just cut out in Photoshop used by this student to make this image, this composite. You see the belt is the cutting board. You see the tomato is the jacket, the arms are carrots, there's the olives, the lettuce is the beard. Let's look at some other ideas here. We have a character from online. We've got the cutting board body, but how did they do that? How did they get the parts to look like that? Color them, shape them in this way. And so what I wanted you to do is think about these parts in from a different perspective. What instead of what they are, what could they be? Some students maybe just go online and they, maybe look at a picture of a penguin and then they think about what parts could be the parts of the penguin in the real picture. So if I were to go to, say, this free site here, Pexels, I'll type in a penguin. See what I get. And so you look at this picture of this penguin, and we'll look at this here, this penguin here, and see like the little pattern right here looks like the if I were to take the heads of lettuce and like line them up along here, I could recreate that really splotchy looking stripe that you have on this pattern that you have on this bird. Looking at these other pictures, same thing. Maybe I could like shape the yellow pepper to fit and make this part of the bird, or fit it right in here, or the carrot could be turned yellow and fit right in here to recreate. So it's almost like, your style guide and your idea is your style guide, and then of course how you're going to trace and create your shapes on top of it, manipulating these items that we've cut out. So we'll look at some other examples here, cartoon characters and such. So just trying to get you thinking outside the box, really working with some of the effects. But how is this done? Okay, how could it be done? First off, um, when you draw or you plan it out, it's really going to be rough. I have no examples, I'm sorry, but try sketching out in your sketchbook. What can these parts be? Label what it is or the picture that it is that you want. Again, go online, search for ideas, something that will complement your portfolio, something that is means something to you. Don't just pick something random like a penguin if you're not into penguins. Okay, so if you're into cars, then like find a car. And what can you do with that car? Maybe the tomato could be the wheels, or something like that, or maybe the stripes could be the carrot or something like that. you know but plan it out in your sketchbook so you have an idea of how you're going to turn these, and let your imagination go wherever you want, because whatever you want to do, we can make it happen. You're going to learn how to do it. You're going to be able to do it. All right. I'm going to show you a couple ways how that's going to happen so that you are set at ease. And so that's what this part 2 is. All right. So again, we're expecting a sketch, some idea before you actually go into working in Photoshop and doing the things that I'm going to show you here. I want you to sketch and think about what it is that you're going to do based on some of these ideas here. All right, so I'm going to go into Photoshop and just show you a couple tricks here. First things first, let's go with the cutting board. All right, well, we already know that you can, with the move tool, you can rotate, and I can cancel that and get it back to the way it was. You can even rotate by changing what's called the registration point. So see this little thing that's in the middle? You actually move that wherever you want. And wherever you move that, that's now your new pivot point. All right, and you can reset it back to the middle. So, rotation is one thing. We also know that you can scale and it's proportional. We don't have to hold shift, okay? If you do want to scale from the center, it's Alt. All right, but let's see what else you can do. What if I were to go into Edit, and in here we're going to see Transform. Now under Transform, you got a whole bunch of options. Okay, you can flip horizontally, flip vertically. You can rotate 180 degrees. And then you got all these other little things you can do, like skew, distort, perspective, warp. I wonder what that is. Let me go ahead and reset my board first, though. And then we can mess around with warp. So I'm going to go to transform. I'm going to choose warp. Okay. And now with warp, what I'm going to get is 9 spaces. Can't really tell, but 9 spaces that will allow me to change the shape of this object. So I can now just grab any part of this object. Sorry, there's more than that. I think there's 4 rows of 4. It looks like 16. So look at that. I was able to reshape. Now something familiar is going to happen here. You're going to see something from Illustrator, and those are those handles that we use for curves. Remember those? So I can either grab the edge or I can use the handles to kind of fine tune that a little bit. So let me grab this. All right, and so warping really is that. You really are warping. You're changing something. So I'm gonna take this, bring this in here. I've got a little idea to go along with this part 2 here. So see, I'm making this little devilish looking board here. All right, so I got some ideas for this. All right. So when I'm done, I'm going to hit the check mark, and there it is. It's a done deal. It's reshaped, molded. All right. Ah, I just got another idea. It looks like it could be somebody's beard or something like that. Anyways, so I got these little horns and this little mouth. That's what I got. I'm thinking right here, a little mouth right there. And so what I'm going to do now that you've seen warp, you know, consider that under edit, transform, scaling and rotating and skewing is going to kind of shift something at an angle. Distort is going to give you a kind of three-dimensional perspective, kind of like a 2-point or 1-point perspective. Perspective is exactly a perspective, but distort is a whole lot cooler. But warp is the one I really wanted you to get a chance to see, because that's how you're going to get all of your weird shapes and that you're going to need for your characters building in your franken-posite. Okay. But the next thing is going to be color. Okay. So I'm thinking, this doesn't really look like devilish or evil right now. It's green. So I need to make it a reddish color. All right. But I don't want to just paint it red. I want to retain the highlights, midtones, and shadows, and I just want to color it red. So in that case, one of the best ways to do that is using hue and saturation. I love this feature. All right, so make sure we understand what's happening here. First and foremost, we have the cutting board here. All right, and we want to make sure that layer is selected and we understand where it is in the layers panel before we do this. So I'm going to go to layer because we're working non-destructively. I'm going to go to new adjustment layer, and what's going to happen is it's going to add a non-destructive adjustment layer, one that I can turn on and off, move it wherever I want and use it and apply it to any layer I want. So I'm going to choose hue and saturation. Again, look at where I am, layer, new adjustment layer, hue and saturation. I'm going to call it what it's for. I want to say that it's cutting board color. All right, it's good to name your adjustment layers so that you know what they go to. Hit OK. And so look at that. It opened up properties and it added this new layer above my cutting board. Now here's what's going to happen. I told you to remember where it is in the layers panel because it matters. All right. When I choose this colorize option, and if I make any changes whatsoever in this properties, it's going to affect everything on this board. Why? Because look at where the adjustment layer is. It's at the top. And because it's at the top, it affects everything below it, unless I clip it. Okay, so I just said a whole lot of stuff here. Let me break that down. So adjustment layers can be added to your layers panel and they can affect layers below it. But you can also attach your adjustment layer to just one layer. And to do that, there's two ways. All right. Before I get started with hue and saturation, I do like to turn on colorize. And like I said, everything is affected, right? But at the bottom of the properties panel, for this particular adjustment and most others, you'll find that there is a way to clip or turn on I guess, yeah, it's a clipping or an attachment. All right, it's not the best icon, but it shows a box with an arrow. So if I click this, watch what happens in the layers panel. Okay, did you notice that only the cutting board is affected now? And then on top of that, a little arrow appeared pointing down to it. Let me do that again. All right. Now, the other way to attach is holding the Alt key and putting your cursor between the two layers that you want attached. Notice that how the cursor changes right there? That's another way that you can clip. And I'm left clicking to clip and unclip. So that's clipping. So yeah, you can put layers inside of layers. Okay, so it's almost like the entire canvas is this current color, this pinkish color. But what I'm telling Photoshop to do is, hey, I want only this color to be inside this object. So that's a crazy thing to think about. So yeah, you could, if you cut out the shape of the moon, all right, think about the shape of the moon with the edges and the contour and everything, and then you had your face. You could literally put your face into the shape of the moon. That's the idea of clipping. All right. We call these clipping masks in Illustrator. Okay. So here and holding Alt, you can either do it here or you can hold Alt and do it here. All right. So now you see I can add color to just one item and I can do it non-destructively. meaning I can turn this color off and turn it back on. And using properties, I can change the color itself. So let's see, I want to make this a reddish color. So I'm going to increase the saturation. All right. And maybe a little richer red, so I'll turn it more, a little bit darker. Okay. Yeah, I'll work with that. All right. Now, I'm going to deselect this cutting board, and all of a sudden, everything's going to disappear from properties. But I want to change the color again. All right, no worries. In your layers panel, right here, when you make an adjustment layer, there's always an icon for that adjustment layer right here. All right, look at where my mouse is. If you click on that, it will bring the properties back up for that adjustment layer. And you can pick up right where you left off. Again, right here is how you get back to the properties for the adjustment. All right, so next, I have warped, I have colored, and now I want to do one more thing here. I'm going to rotate this. You can hold shift to rotate things. All right. And I'm going to shrink that down. And I'm just thinking I might add some fangs here. All right, so I'm going to move that right about there. And let me zoom in. All right, and then I'm going to hold Alt because we know what Alt does. Oh, whoops. Gotta get out of that real quick. Oh, let me move this stuff out of the way here. All right, there we go. Shrink this down, sorry. And move that there. And, oh, oops. All right, why are you... I guess it was just too small. So let me do that. Let me actually do that. I'll do that and make it easier. All right, so the idea is I want to make fangs real quick. All right. So I'm going to hold Alt. Oh, man. All right. I'm going to get this, folks. I'm sorry. Shrink it down. There we go. And check mark. All right. All right, here we go. I was worried there for a second. All right, so holding the Alt key, we've done this in Illustrator a couple times. We see the double arrows, black and white, and that means we can copy. So I'm just going to do this the smart way. Again, waiting to see those double arrows first. And you know what? I think I might flip that. So knowing what I know about flip it horizontally. There we go. So I want them to be like that. There we go. Okay. So I want some like fangs or whatever coming out of this like devil board or whatever it is, you know? And so I'm going to go ahead and select them all. You can just do that by dragging over them and move them into place. Okay. I want those fangs right there. The problem is that they're inside the mouth and you can't see them. I want them to kind of come over the mouth. Maybe some of them are in, some of them are out. How do I do that? Well, I can go to the cutting board. All right. And the cutting board Even though it already has this adjustment layer on it, layers are an amazing thing. I can add a mask. All right, now we've used a mask before. Okay, we used it when we were doing some light writing and photography stuff. So I'm going to add a mask to this. And I'm going to add a mask by going to Layer, Layer Mask. And I want to control what is hidden. So I'm going to make it reveal all first. Okay. Whoa, look at that. So it added this kind of like this white, you know, mask to the layer, just like it added a mask to the adjustment layer. So that must mean that I can hide some of the color too, but we'll get to that later. So in this case here, I've got this mask, and what we remember from mask, and I can put away these properties real quick. As long as the mask is selected, is with black and white or even gray, I can remove things. So I'm going to go in and use a smaller brush. I don't want a soft edge brush because I'm not blending, and I'm just going to remove the cutting board. Now if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal, right? Because you can bring it back. Now I can be a whole lot neater with this too. Okay, so let's see, go right about there. One little trick is if you click once somewhere and with the brush hold shift in another location, it makes straight lines. Look at that. So you can be as neat as you want, but you get the idea that you can use masks. All right, now switch back to black. Look at that. Click, hold shift, straight line. Oh, it's good to cheat. All right, so there's that right there. So I can kind of make them go through. So now you see how like they do some of those tricks, kind of those in-out tricks. It looks like it's in, but it's actually out. Mask is how you can hide things. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna go to. All right. I'll show you guys something to finish this out. So just kind of recall the things that I just went over here, and let's take a look. Not that. I don't think I have it here. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Did I put it in here? Nope. Well, I wanted to show you what exactly we're going to be doing with this, so I guess I'll wait for that in the next one. Um, let's switch back to this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and make sure we know exactly what was covered here. We've got layers panel. All of our parts are cut out. We have explored the warp option, which under edit, transform, warps will allow you to totally manipulate and change the shape of your objects. You're also going to see that you can rotate and flip. Never manually flip or flip vertically your objects. It's always good to use this. Scaling, rotating, skewing. I think you'll really like distort and perspective, but warp is going to probably be your number one. Um, the color adjustment, remember, is layer, new adjustment layer, and then hue and saturation. And know that these adjustment layers can be copied and moved. So for instance, if I wanted to turn the carrots red, as you can see, there's copies of the carrot here. So I'll just go ahead and turn one of them red. You see they're all red right now because it's applying it to all of them. So I could probably even just go ahead and do this, Alt, and now one of them is red. So here's an even, for those of you that really want to learn Photoshop, you can pay attention to this. If not, then you could probably end this right now and start messing around with your different parts. Know that when you change your parts, you might want to make copies first. So for instance, the lettuce, I would probably make a copy of that first and then edit the other one so that you always have a backup. And again, the alt is going to be your friend. All right, so that's just a little editing trick there to make sure that you always have a backup for copies. But here's something for those of you that want to be a little bit more advanced here, and organized. If instead of making multiple adjustment layers for all four of these carrots, I could actually select all four of them. So I'm going to hold Shift and select all four layers. Now in Photoshop, there's no like grouping like you would group in Illustrator. There are folders though. And so if I highlight all of these, I can select the folder icon down here and it will make a group, okay? And what I can do is I can make it so that just that group, all right, is affected by this. Notice I just put the adjustment layer above the group. Okay, so everything's inside the group. I'll call this carrots. Again, if you want to be organized and take it to the next level, now you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to clip it to the group. Yeah, you can clip it to the group. So only that group is that color. And then I could double click the icon to get the properties and continue changing color. Now, if that was crazy and you couldn't follow that, then just rewind and look at it again. But now look at that. I'm able to change the color of these carrot teeth to whatever I want because it's only affecting the ones in that group. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you have fun with this. And next time we get together, we'll be making new creations with these parts. Till next time.